Hey, thanks for the subscription there, Blade. It's good to see you, man. Does that look sideways to you? Oh, it is a little sideways. Just kind of... little bit sideways. There. Come on, fix yourself. That looks better. I think. Yeah. There we go. Alright, guys. So today, we're going to get some more conditions done. And if I run out of juice for that, then we might switch up to some more mat work. That's what we're doing today. But I'm feeling confident about getting all this done. Okay. So the idea is that by making these tiers, I'm able to affect the granularity of the condition. So if it's an affliction, how negative it can be. If it's a imbuement, how positive it can be. My hope for the idea of this is that abilities will be easier to understand what they do because they will follow the same formula, so that players can quickly learn what an effect is and what an effect does. So, for example, if I make an enemy ability that gives a disease on a bite, what I'll do is it'll be marked as a tier 1 disease, right? And then I'll choose one of the blindness, sightless, deaf, one of those. And then that's what that disease does, and then it follows the other disease rules. But if let's say a character has immunity or reduction to tier for received diseases, and it's a reduction of 1, that means that they are essentially immune to anything that's tier 1. And at first I was thinking about making it a gradient scale, but that would be really difficult because then the ability would work differently for that player. So instead, I think I'm just going to do an all or nothing thing. So if you run into a tier 4 condition and you resist up to tier 3, you don't resist it at all. But if it's tier 3, you resist all of it. And I think that's the best way to do it. I thought about doing a reduction scale, but I think that that's going to cause more confusion constantly, because then abilities will have to change on the fly in response. And I want to reduce math that you take, reduce math that you do. So, yeah, I think that goes against the mantra. And I think that's what the plan is. Hey, Arcadum, don't know if you remember me. I talked with my player who took forever in his comment turns. He was really understanding, and our last session was great. Thanks for the pep talk. Hey, no problem, man. See, that's a good thing, right? See? That's all you gotta do is talk to him. Yeah, it's difficult, but it's the only way that you'll really get anything solved, right? And I'm glad that it worked out for you. I really am. That's very good. No problem, Osling. It makes me feel good that I could help. Yeah. Hell yeah. Hold on, I'll be right back. Got a phone call. Alright, I'm back, chat. Sorry about that. Right in my flow state, too. Anyway. Okay. Now, where was I? Let's see here. Bleed. Yep. I'll remind myself it's here when bleed does. Yep. So I'm hoping that having this list, which you guys can see it, right? It's not like difficult to read or anything. Do it like that. Like zoom in a little bit over here. There you go. That might make it a little easier. What's up, Mito? I think what's really going to be helpful with this is that I can use this to cross-reference not only what an ability can do, but I also think what it'll be really helpful for is if, like, typing and categories are going to be a big part of this game, I think. Whereas a character might have a series of immunities, resistances, vulnerabilities, and the ability to give various states dependent upon which aspect that they have, like which ability that they have. So the idea is that they're not going to be sitting there doing a bunch of math. It'll probably come down to just like opposed rolls, really. But they'll be able to figure out all of the aspects of the conditions and abilities and effects from the keyword system. Like, everything's going to be self-referential, right? So hopefully we should avoid any points of, does this work with this? Because everything will be clearly labeled and defined based off of how it will relate. And then I'm hoping that once we do all the test games, I can go back through, obviously adjust things as they need to be adjusted if I need to. But more importantly, I'll be able to put into the notables how they interact in case there's any weird interactions that we find. One of my big goals, as ambitious as it might be, is that whenever we start the games back up, the idea is that we spend less time trying to figure out rules, right? So it's like, the idea is that people won't spend a lot of their own session time trying to figure out how the game works, right? My goal and hope is that people will be at least some veterancy in the system, and there are less points of confusion and deviation. That's my hope, at least. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. I think the keywords will help with that, especially if the wiki, in whatever format it has the keywords hyperlinked or referencing their definitions. Right. Like, I'm also designing this with the understanding that there will be a wiki for it, right? That'll be cross-referencing itself. I don't think I should do stunned. That's too much. Ooh, petrified might be a good one to put in there. Yeah. Ooh, rage for like tetanus and stuff. Yeah. May incur tier 1 rage. Actually, I should change this to may include. Ooh, that's a new keyword I could use, is include, to add to a list. Yeah. To the tier 1 list. That's a good idea. Make that change right now. What's up, Leo? By the way, Leo, you never responded to me in the DM you sent me. So. Clap. Okay. Oh, madness. We gotta put madness in there. Disease can certainly make you mad. I think we should add another keyword called compounding, which indicates that it gets worse over time. compounding is different from stackable because you can't apply the same disease again to somebody who's already diseased, but it can still get worse. So compounding, I think, is what we use for that. For effects that can't be stacked but get naturally worse over time. That's going to be great. So the idea here is that if you get a minor disease like, I don't know, cloud eye, we'll say, a disease that affects your eyes, you going to incur tier 1 blind / sightless, right? So we'll say blind in this case because it's a physical effect and not a magical disease. So you've got this thing that gives you tier 1 blindness. But because it's compounding, and let's say its increment is 3 days, right? So that means every 3 days, your blindness gets worse. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, so on and so forth. Yeah. And that works for all of them. I think that's good. Say afflict. Something like that, guys. Sense because it's already at 7. Let's say this. I should do fading as another effect. Fading is the opposite of compounding. And it begins to get better. Yeah. That'll also... Yeah, okay, so fading would work if I wanted to give a temporary buff. That slowly begins to taper out. Yeah, I think that's good. That looks good. That's a great framework. So now, if a character gets sick, but the disease isn't that bad, let's say it's like, I don't know, like the shakes or something, then that means, let's say I put an increment of 1 day on that for compounding, and it's a tier 1 disease, and its maximum duration is 3 days. Yeah. So that means day 1, you have tier 1 shakes. Day 2, you have tier 2 shakes. Day 3, you have tier 3 shakes, which, let's say it affects fatigue, right? So that means you have tier 3 fatigue on the 3rd day, and then it hits its max duration, so then it starts to fade, and it goes down by each increment. So then on the 4th day, you have tier 2, on the 5th day, you have tier 1, and then finally on the 6th day, you are naturally recovered from the shakes. That makes sense to me. That's easy and clean. Yeah. I think that's good. Does the distinction between mundane-based afflictions and magic-based afflictions means that the cure to those afflictions follow the same distinction? Yes. Some effects will only cure disease, not plague, right? Because they only affect the physical realm. Some abilities may only make you immune to magical versions of that effect, like plague. And you might need different forms of treatment and different forms of interaction points. So, that's the idea. Does being supplied affect your ability to treat diseases, poisons, or other afflictions? I think that entirely depends on what I want the supplied effect to be. Also, supplied is going to be a party imbuement, so I'm not sure if I want to put it on the base imbuement list. I might put that under some kind of party mechanic designation. Or I might do a separate list for party-wide afflictions and imbuments. So, that's probably what I'll end up doing. Right now, we're on individual conditions. And then we'll probably do group conditions that affect the party as a whole. Like low and high morale. Supplied. Maybe even some, like, cool ones like Doomed or something. Some stuff like that. That also gives more gameability space to character classes, so they can affect the entire party as a separate effect, which is pretty cool. My face when I took Remove Curse, Lesser and Greater Resto, found out it was the wrong tool for the job. Well, it won't actually be like that at all, Van, because of how the spell list is changing. So, if somebody has Restore, or whatever the base form of Restoration is going to look like, they'll have their color augmentation to it, and then they'll have different augments that will apply it in different ways. So it's like... It's kind of going to be more like, it's either something you can do or can't do. It's not going to be about preparation, most likely. But then again, like, it's also going to have interaction points as well, like with items and class features. So it's more likely that it's not going to be a spell that does it. It's going to be a class augmentation to a spell that'll do it. Or just a base class ability, or a hero, or a character path ability or something. That's a great way of looking at it, guys. That's definitely the intention. The supplied attribute for the exploration-based parts of the campaign is going to be really important. Because if you're supplied, then... The big thing is, this is basically where I'm at with this. One of the biggest things that supplied will allow is a long rest. If you are not supplied, then you can't long rest. So... that's the idea. And I think that's a lot easier than doing a bunch of, like, arbitrary item gathering and stuff like that. I'm trying to simplify the parts that are, like, I don't want to remove the preparation aspect, but I just want to make it condition-based instead of, do you have enough torches? You know, stuff like that. I'm looking forward to the class ability keyword stream. What's your roadmap look like? What Gaz said. I'm starting, like, all of July is going to be committed to class features. Because it's going to take me the whole month to do it. I'm probably going to actually extend my work week each day. Like, my work day for July, just to make sure I get through it all. Especially since, you know, do I want to work on my birthday? Kind of stuff like that, but I can't do the class feature stuff until I finish core rules, like conditions and imbuements. I have to make all the Legos that I want to build stuff with, you know? Like, we don't have a lot of time left in June, but I'm hoping with a couple of solid work weeks, I'll be able to get all the core stuff done, the core booklets out, send those off, launch the Kickstarter, and have all the pieces I need to start building classes. That's the hope. Also, that gives Nara a little bit more time to make more class art, which I think is great. He has been doing some stuff, guys, let me tell you. I don't know how he does it. He just has the time to do it. Like, let me show you some stuff that he's been working on lately. So, because I kind of want to just promote my boy a little bit. So, first we have, he made the Sohei. That was cool. He made the Sohei, which is like the traditional... Actually, this terrible fucking resolution. Why is this resolution so bad? He made the Sohei, which he based off of, like, traditional Chinese monks using the battle shovel. He's got some really cool work on, like, the line art on this lady is sick. Look at that, see? Look at this. Like, he's doing such a good job, man. Like, I couldn't be happier. Like, the art we're gonna get. Look at the Delver. She's got this sick trench coat on. here's another one. The Closer. Very cool. He's doing such a good job, man. Like, I'm really, really happy that he's helping. I'm really, really happy about it because, you know, I think that class art's really going to draw people in. To the person suffering from this effect. What did I use before? Probably afflicted. Yeah. The afflicted. target creatures in any way. The afflicted can no longer recognize allies and treats all creatures as hostile in terms of its abilities. No, that doesn't make sense because you can still hear them. Oh, I should limit movement, I think, as the tier 7. Yeah, I think that's what we do instead. Incur. May incur. Tier. Probably 4 staggered. Tier 4 staggered. Slash dazed. This it's good. Tier 1 blind is -1. Tier 2 is -2. Tier 3 is -3. Tier 4 is targeting interruption. Tier 5 is allied targeting interruption. Tier 6 is massive targeting interruption. And Tier 7 is movement interruption as well. But the idea is that the blindness and sightlessness, every one of those effects will have fading as a base mechanic. So you're not stuck like that forever. Yeah. However, you could be stuck with blindness if you got it through a disease, though. And that's kind of the idea. Diseases being able to give multiple afflictions means that a powerful disease, like a really bad one, can really fuck you up, because you can be blind and staggered and, you know, bleeding, things like that. Very cool. Death's gonna be hard. Okay. What skills would death affect? Stealth. If you can't hear yourself, you can't tell when you're making noise. That makes sense. In survival, you can't hear the wilderness. Yeah, that looks good. I think that's reasonable. effects from allies that from creatures cannot be imbued with effects from creatures that have the did I not put confusion on this list? I don't think I did. I guess I could just make confusion effects a part of madness. Yeah, I could just do that. Well, do I want to do that, though? I guess I could make the really minor forms of madness confusion, like the first two tiers. Confusion and madness are really close to each other. We'll do afflicted gains. May incur madness. Tier 1 madness. Looks good to me. Still working on keywords? Sure am. I gotta finish them first before I can do the next stuff. Oh. What is happening here? What's up, Echo Shadow? Currently, I am working on a system, a tabletop system, called Prism. That is what I'm currently doing. Right now, we're on conditions, afflictions, and imbuements. That's cool. What kind are you making? Well, currently, is a D20 system that is essentially inheriting all of the concepts and experimentation I've done with 5e and Pathfinder before that. It is a system that is my hope, will add complexity to character development. It will be easier to actually play. The idea, like one of the mantras that we've quoted in this game for its creation is small numbers, big decisions, right? So instead of having a bunch of heavy math crunch, instead it's all conditions and effects and how they're applied and stuff like that. But the actual modifiers are smaller and easier to calculate. Music has me too chill. I need something else. What you got? No, I need something more than that. Time to bust out the metal playlist. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay. Yeah, this is good music. By the way, to make sure I promote the channel that I'm listening to, it is Samurai Girl. This is shamisen and heavy metal. A thunderous clash of tradition and power. Oh, actually, I just saw something. Yeah, I should probably stop listening to it. That's unfortunate. Dang it. I don't think it's stream safe. Oopsie doodles. Where's my other channel that has stream safe metal? Man, that was a jam too. Unfortunate. Alec cough. Let me make sure this is safe. Says you cannot claim the music as your own, not sell the music anywhere, you cannot remix music without the author's consent. All music is protected by DMCA. Oh, okay. That should be fine. Oh yeah, I was in the middle of this. This is good shit. All right. Ooh, here comes a bad one. like I'm making good progress. Yeah, I think it's coming along. go. Be right back down, you guys. Gotta go pee pee. Alright, I'm back. Let's go it. Hold on, I'm gonna check something real quick, chat. I'll be back real quick. Alright, let's do this. Okay, so what I'm thinking about for exhaustion is that, what am I thinking about? Okay, I have built-in durations everywhere else. I think that exhaustion and fatigue are not going to have durations. They are there until they are rested. Yeah. See, the reason why I'm putting special care into this one, I think this one's going to be like a really dangerous one. Like this will be like possible party killing sort of thing, right? Because the idea is you can't recover from exhaustion or fatigue unless you do a long rest, which means that you have to be supplied. So if there's ever if there is ever a scenario where someone gets exhaustion and they're not supplied and the party can't get supplied, that could potentially be a death sentence. So I have to make sure that everything is worded carefully. Yeah, exhaustion is going to be bad. How do I want to do this? I think I need some dwarf stuff. Also, how's everybody doing? Everybody doing good today? Wanted to say thanks to everybody who's currently watching and everybody who's supporting the channel and all that good stuff. I probably got another hour and a half in me. Just want to try and get all this stuff done. My goal is to get through probably not all of them, but at least up to Elemental. Elemental will be fairly easy. For super duper bonus points, I'm going to try and finish all of the afflictions, but that might be difficult. You know what I want to listen to? I want to listen to the full version of Misty Mountains Cold. There we go. Listen to some fantasy music, if you know what I'm saying. Nice. Glad everybody's doing good. Okay. Now I gotta think this out.
mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old. We must away ere break of day to seek the pale enchanted gold. The dwarves of yore made mighty spells while hammers fell like ringing bells in places deep where dark things sleep, in hollow halls beneath the fells, for ancient king and elvish lord, there many a gleaming golden hoard they shaped and brought, and light they caught to hide in gems on hilt of sword, on silver necklaces they strung, the flowering stars on crowns they hung, the dragonfly in twisted wire, they matched the light of moon and sun. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day to claim our long forgotten gold. Goblets they carved there for themselves, and harps of gold where no man delves. There lay they long, and many a song was sung unheard by men or else. The pines were roaring on the height, the winds were moaning in the night, the fire was red, its flame spread, the trees like torches blazed with light, the bells were ringing in the day, and men looked up with faces pale. The dragons are more fierce than fire. They know their words were laid on stream or stone when Durin woke and walked alone. He named the nameless hills and dells. He drank from yet untasted wells. He stooped and looked in mirror and saw a crown of stars appear as gems upon a silver thread above the shadows of his head. The world is gray, the mountains old, the forge's fire is ashen cold. No harp is rung, no hammer falls, the darkness dwells in Durin's halls. The shadow lies upon his tomb, in Moria, in Khazad-dûm. But still the sunken stars appear in dark and endless mirror. Their light is crowned in water deep, till Durin wakes again from sleep.
Okay. Let me explain how this works.
Far over the
Alright, so. Let's see if you can follow along there, chat room. Exhaustion and fatigue is a stackable effect. Tier 1 halves movement rating. Tier 2, the afflicted deals half their normal damage with sources they control. Tier 3, increase the cost of all actions by 1 point. And then 4, 5, and 6 reduce sub-attributes, meaning like all of your extraneous effects are basically cut low. Like you have less resources, you have less ability to incur, like it's bad, right? And then obviously the last one is you're just knocked out. But the idea is that exhaustion and fatigue is stackable, and that whenever a creature is afflicted with a tier of exhaustion and fatigue, it only increases by 1 tier, and only if the new source of the affliction is equal to or greater than the current exhaustion fatigue that they are suffering from. So the idea is that, so if you have no exhaustion and fatigue, and you get hit by a tier 1 exhaustion fatigue effect, you have 1 exhaustion fatigue, right? If you have no exhaustion fatigue and you get hit by a tier 3 exhaustion fatigue, you have 1 exhaustion and fatigue, right? If you have 1 exhaustion and fatigue and you get hit by an ability that has 1 exhaustion fatigue, it goes up to 2 exhaustion fatigue. If you have 2 exhaustion fatigue and you get hit by a 1 exhaustion fatigue, you gain no additional exhaustion fatigue. Everybody get me on that? The idea is that in the case of exhaustion fatigue, it is a effect that gets worse, but only if the same level or greater is applied to you. So you can't, for example, unless special rules, obviously, you can't go straight to tier 7 exhaustion from 0. Like, you would need to be affected 7 times, bare minimum, in order to get to that level, right? And if I give exhaustion as an effect to an environment or something, or even an enemy, there is a limit to how much exhaustion that can cause. So if a enemy, like, I don't know, like a wraith, has the ability to cause exhaustion with its attacks, but its attack is only exhaustion level 3, that means the high, like tier 3, the highest you can get to is tier 4. And it's designed this way because this is such a dangerous affliction to give out. So I wanted to make sure that there's a lot of, what would you call it? A lot of counterplay, right? It should be noted that some things, however, are going to have, like, overarching effects. Like, a desert, for example. Its heat effect is tier 7. Which means you can eventually fucking fall unconscious. And stuff like that, right? And then you have, like, you know, like extreme temperatures will do it. Drowning does fatigue damage. Stuff like that. Is there going to be a barbarian type of class with exhaustion-based rage that would continue stacking up continuously, or would only stack up to a cav the barbarian's trait level? Still designing that. Rage is actually its own thing. Like, rage is its own base condition. So, because rage is both a detriment and a benefit. It's both an affliction and an imbuement. And classes that are based around rage, or trance, are going to interact with the game space differently. I suppose it's a way for future DMs and systems to increase difficulty in their games later when the system is more well known by working around the stacking of exhaustion. Definitely. It's exhaustion is like for dangerous effects that cannot just be ignored, right? Like drowning. Character starts drowning, they're drowning, right? Or lost in the desert, or lost in the mountains. More specifically, lost in the desert and mountains without the supplied condition. So one big thing here is that the supplied condition will, like, one of the things I'm thinking it does is it prevents being affected by the exhaustion effect in dangerous climates, right? But if you don't have the supplied condition, then you're vulnerable to it. And the supplied condition is a party condition, right? And the idea is that instead of keeping track of all this minutia, you just have... How I'm tracking it is this. When you go out on an expedition or an adventure or whatever, you have these many days of being supplied, right? That's the idea. And from that, we start to stipulate all the different things. Like Firewood and Darkest Dungeon, sure, that's a good example. Yeah. Would all biomes give some level of exhaustion unless you have the supply condition? It depends. Like, there's going to be places that have, like, plentiful as a trait, which means that you always have the supplied condition. Or something like that, right? You can literally live off the land, sort of thing. Like, there's fruit trees, like, you know, fruit trees growing, there's fresh fish, you know, things like that. Such as a rainforest biome or grassland. Yeah, like I'm thinking that when we apply it, this is what I have in my mind's eye, right? I gotta be careful using my hands to talk because the camera will freak out. I wonder if I can get it to zoom in. Like, just does it sometimes. Anyway, so this is kind of how I'm thinking of it, right? I'll set it up in my head for you for how I'm thinking of an adventure. So you got 4 players. Each player, let's say they're the traditional 4, right? You have a warrior, you have a cleric, a faith type, mana type, wanderer type, right? Everyone's getting ready to go. You are supplied for 12 days. So that means you have 12 days in which you have the supplied condition, which means you can long rest, which means you can do all that stuff, right? And here's the big thing. Each time you long rest, it takes away from your supplies, which is going to be something that I'm going to change. Resting is not going to just be 8 hours and people can rest multiple times in a day. Like, it's going to be, if you rest, that's it. Like, that's a supply gone. So you can rest multiple times in a day, but if you do so, you deduct your supply by 1. And that's the idea. So if you fuck up in combat and constantly have to re-rest, you're going to run out of supplies. But that also adds value to characters that might be able to give a temporary supplied condition or provide aid in that way. So essentially, making your way through all of that, let's say through the course of the adventure, you get into a battle and, one of you gets like a disease, and now you're starting to get exhausted, right? But the disease isn't that bad. It only caused exhaustion level 1. And you're like, oh, this sucks. I can't really move fast, but, I'm all right. But then you get lost in the mountains or trapped somehow. And then now you're starting to run out of supplies, right? And unfortunately, the person that you would send out to scout or maybe even to try and gather some got sick, right? They have this disease now. And so because they have this disease, now they're like, oh, fuck, what do we do? And and then suddenly the adventure is increased in its peril because there's a clock over your head of how much time you actually have based off of game mechanics. And I think that's a really cool thing. It adds danger to overland travel. That's very inversimilitude, right? You have value given to those parties that have characters that dedicate themselves to the overland travel and exploration. And you also have value put on the social characters before the mission begins by being able to get a better deal, get more supplies out of those that are lending it to them. Or maybe that person's a noble and might even be able to get that plus a carriage, like things like that. So there's a lot of different aspects here that become more and more useful. Furthermore, like in the following chapters after civilization is spread out, social becomes a useful survival stat as well, because you can go to outposts, arrange trades, arrange requisitions, and get supplied that way, stuff like that. So I think there's going to be a lot of cool things that can happen, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. The exhaustion system is definitely going to be something that's like, oh boy, but it's also, I think it'll be fair. Sometimes bad shit's going to happen, right? You're going to get diseased or sick, or an enemy, or like a ghost is going to give you a bad touch, and then you might get lost, or an avalanche of rocks might happen, like a rock slide or whatever, and then the path that you had back is covered. Now you have to find a new way around so that you can get back home or get back to a supplied state. Stuff like that. And I think what's really cool about that is that it'll give a lot of value to the survival-based characters as well. Like the tracker, the priest, the mana drifter, and the explorer. Stuff like that. I think that's going to be great. So you'll have your combat-focused characters, you'll have your out-of-combat-focused characters in different ways and different functionalities and different levels of usefulness. Like, I'm really looking forward to that. Let's see. Reflected becomes disabled whenever they would spend action points since acquiring this affliction. I better not use that word. Incapacitated, I think is better. If I use the disabled word, I might be considered insensitive, even though I'm not really using it that way. But I just, simple fix. All right. There we go. Okay. I think that's good. All right. Let's dwarf it up. I need to lock in. Get as much of this done as I can. And I haven't eaten today yet either. Ugh.
The misty mountains grew to dungeons deep and caverns dim. We must away ere break of day to win our hearts and gold from him. The wind was on the withered heath. Forest their shadows lay by night and day, and dark things silent crept beneath. The wind came down from mountains cool. Shrill and harsh across the marsh, its whistling voices released. The grasses hissed, their tassels bent, the reeds were rattling. Shaken pool under heaven's cool, where racing clouds were torn and rent. It passed the lonely mountain bed and slept above the dragon's den. They're black and dark, they boulder stark, and flying smoke was in the air. It left the world and took its flight.
What's up, Hernando?
Over The spear is long, the arrow swift, the gate is strong.
Shoots, bro!
The heart is bold, that looks on gold. The dwarves no more shall suffer wrong. The dwarves of yore made mighty spurs, while hammers fell like ringing bells in places deep where dark things sleep. In hollow halls beneath the fells, on silver necklaces they strung. Light and stars on crowns they hung. The dragon far from twisted wire. The melody of harps they rang. The mountain throne once more is freed, a wandering folk the summons heed. Come haste, across the waste. The King of friend and King has need. Now we call over the mountains cold. Come back unto the caverns old. Here at the gates, the King awaits. His hands are rich with gems and gold. The King has come unto his hall under the mountain dark and tall. The worm of dread is slain and dead, and ever so our foe shall fall. Farewell we call to hearth and hall, though wind may blow and rain
up.
And whither then we cannot tell, with foes ahead, behind us red, beneath the sky, shall be our bed, until at last our toil be past, our journey done, our errand sped. We must away, we must away. We ride before the break of day. Erindia was a mariner that tarried in Arcadum. He built a boat of timber felled in Imbre fields to journey. Her sails he wove of silver fair, of silver were her lanterns made. Her prow was fashioned like a swan, and light upon her banners lay. Panoply of ancient kings, in shaded rings he armored him. His shining shield was scored with runes to ward all wounds and harm from him. His bow was made of dragon horn, his arrow shorn of ebony, of silver was his habergeon, his scabbard of chalcedony, his sword of steel was valiant, of adamant his helmet tall, an eagle plume upon his crest, upon his breast an emerald. Beneath the moon and under star, he wandered far from northern strands, bewildered on enchanted ways, beyond the days of mortal lands. From gnashing of the narrow ice, where shadow lies on frozen hills, from nether heats and burning waste, he turned in haste and roving still on starless waters far astray. At last he came to night of naught, and past and never sight he saw of shining shore, nor light he sought. The winds of wrath came driving him, and blindly in the foam he fled, from west to east and errandless, an arrow.
Yeah, I saw that, Henano. I actually added it. Compounding. I thought it was a good idea.
Might of death across the grave, and long forsaken seas distressed, from east to west he passed away. Through ever night he back was borne, on black and roaring waves that ran, o'er leagues unlit and foundered shores, that drowned before the days began, until he heard on strands of pearl, where ends the world, the music long, wherever foaming billows roll, the yellow golden jewels wound. He saw the mountains silent rise, where twilight lies upon the knees of Valinor and Eldamar, beheld afar beyond the seas. A wanderer escaped from night, to haven white he came at last, to elven home the green and fair, where keen the air, where pale as glass, beneath the hill of Ilmarin, a glimmer in the valley sheer, the lamplit towers of Tyrion, a mirror on the shadow mere. They taught to him, and sages old him marvels told, and harps of gold they brought to him. They clothed him then in elven white, and 7 lights before him as through the Calicurian to him
and forlorn he went.
He came unto the timeless halls, where shining fall the countless years, and endless reigns the elder king, in Ilmarin on mountain sheer, and words unheard were spoken then, of folk of men and elven kin, beyond the world where visions show, forbid to those that dwell therein.
A ship then new they built for him, of mithril and of elven glass, with shining prow, no shaven oar, nor sail she bore on silver mast.
The Silmaril as lantern light, and banner bright with living flame, to gleam thereon by Elbereth herself was set, who thither came, and wings immortal made for him, and laid on him undying doom, to sail the shoreless skies and come behind the sun and light of moon. From Ereven's lofty hills, where softly silver fountains fall, his wings him bore a wandering light beyond the mighty mountain wall. From world's end then he turned away, and yearned again to find afar his home through shadows journeying, and burning as an island star. On high above the mist he came, a distant flame before the sun, a wonder ere the waking dawn, where gray the northern waters run.
And over Middle Earth he passed, and heard at last the weeping soul of women and of elven maids, in elder days, in years of yore.
But on him mighty doom was laid, till moon should fade, an orbit star, to pass and tarry nevermore, on hither shores where mortals are. Forever still a herald on, an errand that should never rest, to bear his shining lamp afar, the flammeth earth.
Man. I really like Clamave de Firmundis, man. They're awesome.
They will look for him from the White Tower. But he will not return, from mountain or from sea. Through Rohan,
What am I listening to?
over fen and
The Lament of
field,
Boromir right now.
where the long grass grows.
So if you don't know who these people are, they're Clamavi de Profundis. I'm saying that wrong. Just type in Clamavi. Clamavi. They're a YouTube channel that does they do a lot of things, but the thing that I like the most they do is they actually sing the Lord of the Rings songs that are in the books, and they do a really good job on them. So yeah, and this one here is the song of when Boromir died. The other three companions, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, stand around. It's like a funeral for him. And the thing is the thing they leave out of it, I think, is where Gimli says, "You left the east wind to me, but I shall say nothing of it," because the east wind is the evil wind. I think it's just those three. Anyway, it's really good. Enjoy yourself. Alright, let's get this done.
They will look for him from the White Tower. But he will not return, from mountain or from sea. Through Rohan, over fen and field, where the long grass grows, the west wind comes walking, and about the walls it goes. What news from the west, O wandering wind, do you bring to me tonight? Have you seen Boromir the tall, by moon or by starlight?
I saw him ride over 7 streams, over waters wide and grey. I saw him walk in empty lands until he passed away into the shadows of the north. I saw him then no more. The north wind may have heard the horn of the son of Denethor. O Boromir, from the high walls westward I looked afar, but
From the mouths of the sea, the south wind flies. From the sand hills and the stones, the wailing of the gulls it bears, and at the gate it moans. What news from the south, O sighing wind, do you bring to me at eve? Where now is Boromir the fair? He tarries and I grieve.
Ask not of me where he doth dwell, so many bones there lie on the white shores and the dark shores, under the stormy sky. So many have passed down and in to find the flowing sea. Ask of the north wind news of them, the north wind sends to me.
O Boromir, beyond the gates, the seaward road runs south. But you came not with the wailing gulls from the grey sea's mouth.
From the gate of kings the north wind rides, and past the roaring falls, and clear and cold about the tower its loud horn calls. What news from the north, O mighty wind, do you bring to me today? What news of Boromir the bold, for he is long away. Beneath Alan I heard his cry, there many thoughts he fought. His cloven shield, his broken sword, they to the water brought. His head so proud, his face so fair, his limbs they laid to rest. And Raros, golden Raros, falls for him upon its breast.
O Boromir, the tower of God shall ever northward gaze. To Raros, golden Raros falls until the end of days.
Man, that's good stuff. I kind of want to listen to the oh man, what is it called? The what is it called? Oh, Horatius at the Bridge. That's it. Have you guys ever heard that before? It's a really cool poem. Yeah, there's a guy I found on YouTube that does a really good version of it. Like, he speaks it. He puts some music to it. I think he does a pretty good job. Yeah. Alright. Let's see here. How much time do I got? About 15. Yeah. You know, I'm going to listen to this. I'm not sure how YouTube feels about poems being recited, but this guy does a good job, and I'd like to. It's called Good Seeds, Good Trees. I think it's the only thing he's really done, but it's pretty nice. He did it 8 years ago. Wow. Anyway, I'm gonna listen to it because I think it's cool. The poem takes place in ancient Rome, and it's about Rome being attacked, pretty much.
Lars Porsena of Clusium, by the 9 gods he swore, that the great house of Tarquin should suffer wrong no more. By the 9 gods he swore it, and named a trysting day, and bade his messengers ride forth, east and west and south and north to summon him.
Oh, it's not as good without the subtitles, actually. Dang. Yeah, I'll just put something else on. I'll listen to that later by myself. Let's end it with some jams. I want to jam. There we go. How's it going? It's going good, Nist. Getting lots done. Cranking out these afflictions, man. I know this is... Ugh. This is where the hard part of the work comes in, because I have to do all these pieces first before I do the fun stuff, like classes and whatnot. I mean, this is fun, but it's like, it's just a lot of work, because I have to hold a lot in my head. So when I design this stuff, I have to like keep in mind what I'm gonna make later that I haven't made yet, in order to make sure that it's clear. I'm also hoping that the bolding of keywords and applicable words and stuff like that will really help. Like, they'll be able to read it easier, I guess. Oh, sorry. Alright, cool. We got taunt. Whew. We got a lot done today. That's a lot we got done. See, I still have Petrified, Rage, Banished, Alkalized, Locked, Sealed, Madness, Marked, all the Elementals, Wounded and Shattered before I go to the Imbuements. I was not able to get them all done. I might have to do a second stream tonight. Or I might just hang out in the Discord and work on it. Because I got to get some food here pretty soon. But, yeah, because I got to stay on schedule. I can't be bogged down by this harder, not harder, but like more tedious work. Because I've got to calculate everything. It's been good to stream for you guys, though. I think that's super cool, right? Hope everybody's been enjoying the Prism streams. I know they're not as exciting as the, games being run, but I'm hoping that this is showing all the work that I'm doing and that people feel like their investment is worth it, right? All right, but that'll be probably the last official stream for Prism this week. Tomorrow and the day after. Tomorrow is community night. And I might do like a stream before community night, like a fun one. And then we have Sunday morning is when we do our last Corvinus game. So then I can start to write all that stuff out. And then I might do something that Sunday night for fun. And then I can schedule what is essentially the finale of Corvinus. And yeah, good stuff, guys. I'll see you guys tonight. Probably just going to be in the Discord cranking this stuff out. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for watching. All that good stuff.